At this point in time, I'm going to be bringing in my brother, my friend, my Egmo, my buddy. You know, he's been there. I mean, he's been there on days that I needed to just go and complain. Days I almost needed to cry. The days he's been there several times for me. In times, and there's never been a day that I asked him to show up for anything that he didn't show up. It is my honor and my privilege to welcome and introduce to some, present to others. All right, Tonye Patrick Cole. Let me, and you know you're going to dance. So I've told you you're going to dance. So you have to dance. So. All right, bro. I told you you're going to dance.
Let me take my ID card off. I forget that I'm a student. I can't hear a thing.
No, we cannot start until we see you rocking it.
We have to rock at it. I can't hear the music. Oh, yeah. So you took this one.
Oh my God, this thing is freezing. I don't know why.
It's good on my end. Can you hear me?
Thank you, bro. Amazing. It is. Can you hear me?
Lovely.
Can you hear me clearly?
Very well.
Okay. Well, it seems like you're freezing. Do are you able to toggle between internet service providers to see if there's maybe it's a Wi-Fi, or maybe you can use your other service provider?
It's not from me. I'm in school. Okay. I'm in Oxford, so I don't know.
Yeah, fantastic. You're always in school. I've never seen somebody that like knowledge like you. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome once again to Lead with FD, Tonye Cole.
Push it.
All right, fantastic. Look, you know what? It is such an honor to have you, my brother. And I said something at the top of this program today. I said, I have never invited you to a thing and you said no. And I don't know many people that are busier than you, but there's a way that you always find time. And I'm very honored to be one of the people you make time for. I know your time is so precious. I mean, when I called you earlier, it was clear to me that you were in a class or you were doing something, but you always make time. And I don't take that for granted. I'm grateful. Thank you, bro. Thank you so much. Thank you.
All good.
Let me introduce you by your profile, and then we will talk about your leadership journey. And I always have the leading question that I like to start with. So let me start by saying, Tonye Patrick Cole is the co-founder of and former group executive director of Sahara Group, an energy conglomerate with operations spanning the entire energy chain in Nigeria and neighboring West African countries, all through to East Africa and beyond. The Sahara Group operates in 38 countries all around the world, with over 4,000 employees and an annual turnover of about $11 billion. Tonye Cole was responsible directly for building the group's global expansion and upholding her corporate governance principles, maintaining her status with global institutions like the World Economic Forum, where he was a key member of the Partnering Against Corruption Initiative. Also, connecting with the United Nations, where he was a pioneer member of the advisory group of the Private Sector Advisory Group for the UNDP Sustainable Development Group Fund, as well as the African Philanthropy Forum, amongst many others. In addition to founding and running one of Nigeria's largest energy conglomerates, Tonye Cole also spearheaded and developed work carried out by the Sahara Foundation globally. He continues working to inspire the youth of Africa through charities such as his NGO, Nehemiah Youth Empowerment Initiative, which aims to influence change in Africa by bringing together young and emerging leaders to develop and implement practical strategies that will produce positive outcomes for millions, and more recently, the Behavioral Health Institute, BHI, that he set up for the study and management of behavioral health issues, especially amongst youth in Nigeria. In addition to all of this, he works very closely with a number of foundations in Nigeria, including the Down Syndrome Foundation, Slum-2-School Foundation, the Compassionate Center, and various, many orphanages. He has served as a board member on Atlas Mara, Bloomberg TV Enactus Nigeria, Nigeria Chambers of Shipping and Digital Jewels, amongst many of the board memberships that he holds. He's also a member of the Private Sector Advisory Group of the United Nations Sustainable Development Fund, and he was recently appointed to the World Bank Group Expert Advisory Council on Citizen Engagement. In September 2018, Tonye made a decision to pursue a career in politics. We're going to be talking about that. He formally resigned from all board memberships and his executive roles held in Sahara Group, as well as his board positions elsewhere, to contest for the gubernatorial seat in his home state of Rivers. Tonye Cole worked hard to catapult his career from architect to executive director of Sahara Group, but his true passion lies in encouraging young Africans. Life is like a jigsaw puzzle, Tonye says. You see the picture, you know what it's meant to look like, and from there you start putting the pieces together. As far as Tonye is concerned, if you are patient and diligent, you will actualize that picture. The good thing about Nigeria is that every piece of the puzzle is there. Maybe in the wrong place, but it's there. You just have to understand what you want and put the pieces together. That's such an amazing quote. Tonye, it is such a pleasure to have you. Great pleasure to have you here.
Hey, bro.
Right?
Bye.
That's such an inspiring profile. I mean, it's always a joy to read your profile if I ever have to introduce you. What I would love to do is to hear the Tonye Cole story, because you know, a lot of times people can see the glory, but they don't know the story behind it. I mean, I've had the privilege of hearing you several times, even in Gemstone, tell us the story of how, when you started and how you guys started and all the things that you know, all the journey that you went through. But before you tell us your story, there is a standard #1 leading question that I always ask every guest. And that is, what is your definition of leadership? How would you define leadership?
Okay. So I would always say, first of all, that leadership begins first with yourself. If you cannot lead yourself, you cannot lead anybody at all.
Wow.
So leadership is holding yourself accountable for the gifts and talents that you have been blessed with, and then serving it to others. It is what you have in you that then improves the lot of everyone else. And only after you've led yourself can you lead others. So for me, leadership is about service. It's about understanding yourself. It's about holding yourself accountable and then pushing it out.
Oh, wow. I love that. And guys, you know how I love to do it on Lead with FD. Every time you hear something that is really, really inspiring for you, please put it out there. Please put, you know, let's fill the comment section with the lessons, the learnings, the keys, the principles, whatever it is that we can learn from. You know, I want you to please put it out there. Anybody that is reading the comments should literally just be able to hear what Tonye has said, even especially if they scroll through. So leadership is about service, but to be able to serve, you must first understand that it starts with you, because you are the one that must serve, and to be able to serve, it starts with you holding yourself accountable and serving others. And I love that. How did your leadership journey start? And I always like to know this. When did you know that you were a leader? Was there a time in your life that you came to this understanding? Wow, I'm a leader, and my responsibility is to do this and to do that. Tell us a bit about your leadership journey.
You know, it's a funny thing. I believe that when it first dawned on me that I had to kind of lead anything at all, must have been in university. And I had come through some life-changing impact, whereby I had first of all started university first as a Christian, born again, and all of that, and then I had a huge disappointment. Now, in this huge disappointment, I just walked away. I walked away and I went into what, as in Christianese, we will say, I went into the world. And I'm kind of,
you don't want to tell us what the disappointment was. It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. But it was long and short of it. It was a relationship thing with people within Christendom that just broke my heart. And when it broke my heart, it was almost as if there was a lie within the truth, and I just didn't like it. So, and I'm kind of extreme. When I put my mind to something, I do it. If I say this is what I want to do, then I do. And so, as a born again Christian at 16, right, I was in full 100%. So when that happened to me, it kind of broke my heart. And my brother, I just went the other way.
You went to Egypt.
I went to Egypt. But in Egypt, because again, when you do something, it's about skills. It's about what you bring and the passion you bring into something. And here I was in Egypt. I'm bringing passion into it. And I joined a club in school called Foods Club. And Foods, at the end of the day, I remember them coming to me, come and join Foods, and but anyway, I joined. And when I joined, again, when you take something and you push it, everybody will see what you can do. I was appointed president of Foods Club, and it became my responsibility to carry my peers, my young peers in school, and push them at the top of, we are talking about clubs now in school, but you're also competing against other clubs. You're competing against people within the school in leadership, in dealing with ideas as to what a club should do. And so I was appointed chief first year. Now, most people, as chief of a club or president of a club, you do 1 year, you do a 1 year term, and that's it. First year, I was chief. Second year, I was chief. Third year, 3 years. 3 years of chief. But what you saw there,
can I throw something in?
Yes.
And I'm not sure whether that was what you were going to ask, what you were going to lead with it. What did you think that they found in you? What do you think they saw in you? And what was it that it seemed like, that they saw that caused them to say, no, this is not the 1 year tenure? What were the things you thought they saw in you?
Okay, so there's one thing that I've seen in life, not a lot of people like to take responsibility, and you must be ready to take the responsibility which comes with work. So when you take responsibility of leadership, essentially what you are doing is that you're putting yourself out there. It means that you're going to work harder than others. Now, remember, I was doing architecture, and I was doing architecture at a time. Architecture is tough.
Yeah, of course.
When anybody goes into architecture, they do 6 + N years, because as soon as you start architecture, almost automatically an extra year is following, plus an extra year and an extra year and an extra year. So I'm doing 6 + N years. Now I must finish in 6 years, because as far as I'm concerned, again, if I put my mind to something, then I want to work within that time frame. So I have to finish architecture in 6 years. At the same time, I'm dealing with a club presidency. So we're doing parties, we're organizing all sorts of things. Now, for you to be able to do all of that, you must have the ability to delegate. You must have the ability to lead. You must have the ability to plan. You must know when to play and when to read. You must know when you are going out. Do you understand? I remember graduating in 6 years, on the day of my graduation, my schoolmates were telling me to go and drop my gown. That is not possible that you have graduated. Do you understand? They were like, it cannot be possible that you have graduated. And why is that? Because to some, what they saw was this person who was a club person, was running chief of a club and all of that. And they just knew that anybody who was in a club, it's nearly impossible that you are going to graduate within the time frame and all of that. But guess what? I got in. There were 100 of us that entered school studying architecture. By the time we graduated, there were maybe 15 of us that finished in 6 years. So, and those are leadership traits that you will not find. It does not come. It takes work. It's hard work to do it. but you just know how to schedule your time and know what you're doing.
And so from school, how then did your leadership journey go?
Okay, so by the time I was leaving school, I think one of the things that I had kind of made up my mind about when I was finishing school was that I was out. Once I finished school, there were three things I said that I wasn't going to do. The first one I backtracked on it. One, I said that I was never ever going into any university again. I was done. I wasn't going to do a master's. I wasn't going to do anything. Now I'm sitting in Oxford University. But anyway.
Never say never.
Never say never. But for me, it was done. So I needed to just focus on life, which meant that my focus was on succeeding in life after university. So university was done. That era for me was in the past. So I could focus on what the next thing was. So that was one. The second aspect of it was that I was leaving home. I was done. I'm not staying in my father's house one day more and all of that. Okay, I ended up spending maybe another year, but but for me, it was that this is it. I'm going.
This is my freedom.
That's it.
I'm going. I'm off.
I'm gone. I'm gone. I
Fly
couldn't
fly away.
I really could not take it anymore. So I was going. So for me, that mindset of going out and staying on your own meant that you had to take decisions in life about how you are going to live, how you are going to survive, and all of that. So that was number two. Then number three was that I knew that I was setting up my own business. So I had actually set up my business. I set up a company with two of my other partners in architecture before I left school. Now that's another story. So before I left school, I decided that this was what I was going to do and all of that. That did not quite work out. But again, what I'm saying is that it's the mindset of what you had decided to do by the time you are leaving. And so for me, I kind of knew that it was gone. So those were leadership journeys that were taken. An independent mindset, knowing that this is what you want to do. A focus saying that you are not going to be dependent on anybody else, but that you are going to make your way and all of that. So it was hard. Starting was hard, but no regrets at all.
Oh, wow. Now, it's very interesting. This, we see many partnerships start in Africa. Now, I won't just say Nigeria, but most of them do not succeed for a long time. Right. We have a few that you see in the law, in some of the professional services, but very rarely do you see partnerships last for long. That those that that you see that succeed and last, you can almost literally count them on your fingers. And Sahara is one of the poster examples, the role model examples for young guys who started a business together, succeeded together, and stayed together. So I'd like to hear a bit of the Sahara story, but more from the point of view of what is the thing that you think has led to Sahara's ability to keep its core founders together and to help the group succeed greatly.
Okay, and those are great questions because one of the things that we always hear is that partnerships are difficult to maintain. And I've seen older people, much older people, tell me the same thing, that look, what you have is really unique. But it's a model that I would advocate all the time, Fela, because it's part of the reason why we have been able to grow the way we've grown. And it's also part of the reason why I can focus on politics today the way that I focus on. Because you know that what you've built is secure. Others are going to run it and they'll run it well. But what are the key ingredients that we have taken in Sahara when we joined, and what has kept us going? And I will probably touch on three very quick things. The first aspect of it was that money was not the issue. Money will always divide partnerships. Money will always divide partnerships. So do not allow money to be the central core of why you have come to be partners. It will divide you. So the first 3 years of Sahara, we did not touch one kobo from the business, not one. It did not come to us. Everything went straight back into the business and everything was used for the business. It meant that we all had to live on whatever we had from wherever. which meant that for most times, anybody who knows me in Port Harcourt when we first started, they would know that my my standard meal when I started was bread, Coke, granite, and banana. That was what
people need to hear that. One of the things you told me a few years ago was how ticket. See what?
No, ticket.
You would drive from Lagos to Port Harcourt.
Yes, absolutely. No, but it's true. So essentially, disciplining yourself to live within your means, but at the same time, you had a business that was paying thousands, hundreds of thousands to keep that business going. So the ticket example, for example, we would be paying tickets for people who were going to purchase allocations or whatever from. They will buy a ticket, they will go everywhere and all of that. Me, I was driving from Port Harcourt down, up and down, so I knew the roads well, driving up and down. But this was the life that we were living. Why was that the case? And that goes to the second one. So money is the first one. That goes to the second one. And the second one was that the business itself had to be bigger than the individual. So we put Sahara as the business. It was out there. Fella, for the first 5 years of Sahara, nobody knew that we were the ones that were the owners. We were staff, end of story, staff. We went in as staff. We didn't go in as CEO, partner, this, that, and all of that. Why? The idea was that the brand needed to speak for itself. If I ask you, who set up Coca-Cola, you don't know. You don't know. If I ask, do you understand? So there are many brands that we live with. There are brands that we take. There are brands that we are okay with. I don't know who set up Samsung. We have no idea who set up Sony. We don't know, apart from the ones that they have names that you can. The other day I found out that Mercedes was not, the name of Mercedes was the daughter of the Mercedes that was named after. Do you understand? You have no idea who set them up. As long as the brand had quality and it delivered what it was doing. And so it was important that we built the brand and kept ourselves behind. And so we stayed behind.
Somebody's asking which year, when did Sahara, the
1996.
Sahara start?
1996. 1996.
Yes, of course, yes. I know.
Yeah, 1996. And so the second thing was make sure that you build the brand. The brand had to be there. Now, the third aspect of it in partnership is that all three of us are different. We have different characteristics, and those characteristics come together to form the whole. So do not be, this is my best friend, we grew up together, everything, we're tight, we think alike, we do alike, so we must form business together. No. No, most times that thing fails. Fine.
No, because in the end, when I see people, you know how it is. People love to go into business with people that they love to hang out with, and people love to hang out with people who typically like the same things as they like, and who are almost like the way that they are. And so in the end, you find out that two people who are pretty much the same have the same strengths, and then they go into partnership, and then their weaknesses are exposed to the competition and to the world. Yeah. And so if it's that all of them are very marketing oriented, who's going to deliver on the promise that you make to the customer? You know what I mean? So it's
absolutely. Absolutely.
And I know that you Ade and Tokwe, I mean, both, can you tell us a little bit about what each of you had or brought to the brand as strengths? Or to the partnership as strengths.
No, beautiful. All right. So, Ade is the most interesting character that I've ever met in my life. Interesting. Why is he interesting? This is a human being, and I'm not kidding you, fella. This is a human being, right, that will buy a phone, the same phone that all of us, he will buy this phone. Before he opens the phone from the packet, the first thing he will take is that he will take the manual. He will sit down with the manual, underline all the functions, know what the phone does first, and then he will start on the phone. He will spend the phone for 2 weeks, 3 weeks. He will be going back and forth before he uses the phone. And then he uses the phone for the function. Now,
Absolutely.
This is a man of detail. So when it comes to detailing anything, if we have a contract, if you send a contract to us and you go and hide inside the contract one clause somewhere that is meant to catch us, and then we catch it, he will find that clause. Why? Because he will sit down and he will underline and he will write and he will query the entire thing. Now, from a business, so for those who go and are in the business of business development, you are doing deals. Deals move fast. You want ideas to move fast, and somebody is sitting down and underlining and querying and all of that. So there's a problem there. But you have to understand that that is your security. That's your security net. Tokwe, on the other hand, Tokwe is the kind of person who will push anything. So Tokwe is that today must work. Today must work. It doesn't matter what you do. Today,
the bulldozer.
Bulldozer. He will bulldoze everything. It must work today, which means that you can be sure that your meal for today is going to be there because he is going to make today work. My own responsibility is for tomorrow, is to ensure that the long term, is to ensure that we have a long-term plan, we have a target, this is where we are going, and all of that. Tokwe will say to you that it is good to have the long-term plan, but if you don't survive today, you will not get there tomorrow. And I will say that that's fine. But if you survive today and you don't have a long-term plan, you will derail. So either way, we must get there. So
amazing.
But that's
so one thing
we started.
Yeah. So what I'm seeing, what I'm hearing you say is you guys, you came to a point where you were able to not only realize everyone's strength as different as they are, but I think what I'm hearing you say more than anything is that you respected each other's strengths.
Oh, you have to. Hey, fella, you have to. You must, because each person's strength comes in at a particular time. Okay, there are times when it is necessary to plan. So there are times when you go into a low season, right? Like COVID just happened. That's a low season. That's a season when very little is happening. That is the time when the planners come in. Those are the people that now start thinking. They can analyze and say that this is what you need to do, change. This is how you need to move. This thing is going to end. When it ends, this is what would happen, and all of those things. At that point, it comes out. Then you come out of COVID, and everybody's running helter-skelter. Everybody wants to move. Then you need the bulldozers to just bulldoze the entire thing and all of that. Do you understand?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. Hey guys, listen, if you guys are listening and you're loving this, come on guys, send some love, send some hearts, put it out there what you're getting tonight. Let me know how this is, how you're feeling with all of this. And then of course, please go ahead and remember to share so that you can let all the other people that are connected to you know that something is happening here. And Tonye Cole is in the house. He's shaking the tables. He's recalibrating leadership for us. One other interesting thing that somebody else had put out there, I'm going to put it within the context of another question, is how do you handle trust? And I'm going to say that I want you to talk to me about trust and ego. Because if you've got three people who, appreciate and respect each other, yet how then does leadership evolve without having three heads? I mean, they say three heads are better than one, but isn't that three heads that fit together? I mean, tell me about the challenges of managing ego and trust in relationships, in partnerships, especially.
Okay. So let me start from ego, because ego is probably something that comes up a lot. Who is the boss? Who is the one who is starting? Whose idea is it? I'm the one that set up this company. I'm the one that must take the decisions. That's where ego comes up from, and all of that. So we resolve ego in three ways. The first thing that we did to resolve ego was that we spread equity across board equally. Okay, so I don't have more than you, you don't have more than me. Everybody is exactly on the same level. That's the first way. Now, this works for us. It may not work for you, I don't know, but this is how we set it out. And so when we set up in 3 ways, divided it completely equally, and we ran like that. So that way, it already sends a signal that each one of us is as important as the other. That's number one. The second way that we decided to deal with ego is that usually ego begins from home. It's either your wife, your brother, your sister, your cousin, your family member that is calling to tell you that, oh,
you are the man.
You are the man. You have this person has.
What is this one doing, self?
What is this one? Keep it out. Just block your ear. You see, when you are building your business and all of that, and you know where you are going, please just focus on your business. Eventually, they will come around. Now, everybody wants you to take care of them. They want you to take care of family, take care of this, take care of that, and it's fine. But when the shoe is pinching me, my what I carry on my own shoulder is different from what they carry. And I'll give you an example. I was married before all of them. I had children before all of them, which meant that my bills were higher at the beginning than all, because I was already paying school fees. I was already doing all of those things long before they started. Now, at that time, if we share 1 naira 3 ways, my own 1 naira is already gone. Meanwhile, the other person's 1 naira is still in his pocket. He's enjoying, so he can buy one better car. Meanwhile, I'm still driving one to key. Now, if family would come back, they will not understand that you have children to bear. And they will say that, but why is this one driving this car and you are doing this? Why is this one buying that and you don't have this? Keep all of that information out. Wow. You need to understand where you are going. Today, my children, bar one, are all graduated. The last one is about to graduate. Most of my colleagues, they're still either paying school fees or coming up and all of that.
Doing school runs.
Still doing school runs. Now, I don't have to do school runs. Now I can sit down and learn more books, chase politics, do something. Just kidding. But the truth is, that's about ego. Ego means that you have to drop your importance and know that each person is there for a reason. Now, when you can bring ego down, right, then the next issue is trust. Now, trust is something that if your business or partnership is going to grow, remember I said there was money, and I mentioned the second thing, which is family.
The second was build the brand to be bigger than you.
To be bigger than you. Now, when we are pushing that agenda that the brand must be bigger than you, you know that the only way that you can build your brand is that I must be able to trust you. Now, that bigger brand means that you're increasing the pie, and the slice of that increased pie means that you get more overall. But what does this mean? It means that I have to trust you. Now, in all the it's now 25 years, but in all the 23 years that I was in Sahara, each one of us, hear this one, each one of us had the absolute authority to sign a loan. In other words, any one of us could have signed away the entire company's account. Any one of us.
Wow.
Okay. Now, that was built from a foundation. Remember how I said we started? That the first 3 years of the business, we put everything back in. And we understood each other from that beginning. That I am here and I have sacrificed on that altar for Sahara. You have sacrificed on the altar for Sahara. Everybody has. So I trust you impeccably. So I can sign anything I could have, my partners could have, and all of that. And I never once, not once, questioned that a requisition or something that was paid from the account was done out of that this is from me, underhand, as against for the company. Not once. It was never questioned. None of my partners ever questioned me, and I never questioned any other. Now, since then, we started as 3. Since that time, we have added additional partners into the company. It has not changed. It's the same. Absolutely the same. So that is trust. And that's how we have grown. Now they tell you, let me close with this one, fella. They say, oh, but Nigeria, they will always steal. When you give trust, somebody will come and steal something from you. They will do this. I said, no problem. So this one is my own prayer. It has worked, so maybe it will work for you. You know me, we fear God. So I say, God.
There are people here on, in the chat saying, this is marriage talk. Oh, this is like. But you know what is blowing my mind, really, and this is really mind-blowing. I didn't know this part of the, this thing you're saying. I mean, I've heard you tell the story several times, but this part I'm hearing for the first time. But this is the part that blows my mind. Was there a day that you guys sat down to discuss this? I mean, when they talk about the fact that, our values have to be in alignment, was it because you knew each other for long? Is it that you stated out the values that each and every one of us will adhere to? What role did values play in identifying each other as potential partners, and obviously in sustaining and building the brand as you were going to go?
Okay. I will answer that. I see one question that keeps popping up over and over again, and it's important that I address that before so that the person can concentrate on the work. He keeps asking, he says, is Caller Additional not part of Sahara? Caller Additional is a partner in Sahara. We're talking about how we started. Caller came later. So three of us started. Caller Additional has come. He's a partner today. Wale is part of the
So, but at the beginning, there was Tonye Cole, Adeodusi, and Tokwe Shonubi. Those are the co-founders.
So that's the core, and that's where we started. So everything, thanks, Jerry, Wale Ajibade. I had a mental block for a second. So, so we have the core partners, how we started, and this is the lesson that we're sharing here. And so to your question, did you sit down and have a discussion that, oh, this is what you must do, that's what you must do, blah blah blah? Absolutely not. But what are the core values that you see? Because when you're going to go into any kind of partnership, and if you're going to deal with trust, then there are certain values that you must know. And these values are values that were established right from in Tokwe's case with Ade, it was from primary school. In my case with Tokwe, it was from secondary school. And how did this happen? So we were not all mutual friends. So Tokwe and Ade went to staff school together in University of Lagos.
University of Lagos,
yes. Again, staff school back then, like Corona and all of that, staff school back then was about building values. You built the core values and morals and all of that. So essentially in school, you already knew the values that you had moving forward. Then I got into King's College, and in King's College, my classmates, right, that are part of Sahara group today, Tokwe Shonubi, Anthony Udiowe, myself, we were all in the same class. We grew up in the same class, in the same thing. Mufe Boyo, same class. We were in the same class with Mufe. Now, so you already knew the type of values that was coming out from back then. Again, those values were established. And then we got into University of Lagos. Myself and Tokwe did architecture in University of Lagos together. We were classmates there. Now, all of this time we were not friends. Okay, just understand this. It's important. All this time, we were not friends. Tokwe was not my friend in school. I was not his friend in school. We knew each other, but we were not friends. But why is it important that I draw attention to what you asked, and why must I separate it from friendship? We grew up with the same values. The type of school that Corona, which is where I went, and staff school brought, the Unity schools, King's College and all of that, and what they brought, they went to ISI. So the Unity schools and what they brought had the same value. We were taught the same value. By the time you got into university and University of Lagos, we had the same value. So you kind of knew the type of value that you have. So Caller Additional, University of Lagos, Wale Ajibade, University of Lagos, myself, University of Lagos, Tokwe, University of Lagos. Do you understand? So the value system that you get by growing up together, so you know what, and with that time, you kind of know who is who. It's a small world. They will tell you, yeah, this one is a criminal. You know the ones that were criminals and the ones.
Amazing. So tell me, and this is a question that's been coming up very frequently. So look, like they always say, there will always be issues from time to time. There will be different perspectives. You know, one person thinks we should do this deal, another person says don't touch it. And how did you guys handle misunderstanding and disagreements? And then we'll see how we dovetail that into understanding your unique success philosophy. I'm going somewhere. I want to understand ultimately, what is your unique success philosophy? You know, and I know you defined leadership, and you defined it pretty good. You know, you've got to be able to hold yourself accountable, serve others. But what is the thing that you look for? And I'm putting those two questions together, right? How did you guys handle misunderstanding, and what is the thing you look for that you believe everyone who will succeed, what do you think that they must have? You know, if you can help me put those two together within the context of your answer.
So again, I'll just use examples, personal examples as to what we did. So in any transaction that we were going to go for, if there was one dissenting voice amongst us, we won't do it. Okay?
Whoa.
All right. So it didn't matter how good it was and all of that. If one person felt that this was not, I don't agree with this, whatever, how fundamental it is, no matter how, so I can try to push it, I can try to sell it to you, I can try to sell it to each of them, say that, you know what, I like this. If one said, I don't know, you may not even have a cognizant reason.
As in a reason,
I just don't feel right about this transaction. Was enough for us to let it go. So we all had to agree. Now, what does this mean when you all agree to something? It means that when the deal goes bad, you all suffer it together. Because
nobody can say I told you so.
Exactly. So you all suffer it together. And it's business. There were bad deals. We entered into some bad deals. But the flip side of it is that when it works, everybody puts their all in it because we all agree to it. So even when I don't quite feel right about it, but I have said yes, then yes is yes. It's now my responsibility. So you don't say yes and then you go and undermine it because you didn't want. Do you understand? The minute you have said yes, then it's your responsibility to push it and drive it and make sure it works. So for me, that's the way that we drove it. What was the second part of the question?
The second part of it, which is, what is your unique success philosophy? What is the thing Okay. And so for me, right, that deal has to benefit somebody else. You see, whatever we're doing, if it is not serving someone else and benefiting them, then there's no point. It's not, people talk about business being exploitative. In other words, it's going out and it's taken. And that used to be, for me, maybe that was business defined in the 1960s or 70s or something like that. The truth of the matter is that today you must see business as an enhancer. The business must be seen as something that goes and makes a difference in lives, in communities, in nations, in places. So when we think about business, we think about how does this business enhance? How does it improve? How does it change lives? How does it change welfare? And once you can do that, then you're okay. So if that business does that, then it's fine. If the business is just to take and chop, it will cause trouble. They run belly, I wolf, they run belly, they run the stomach. Well, you know, Tonye, I mean, before we even go on and talk more about leadership as a culture and the kind of challenges we have, let me, and I'm not sure how many times you get to hear this, but let me salute you on behalf of not just, of Africa, to say thank you guys for giving us something to look forward to. Thank you for helping us to know that partnerships can work, that you can build beyond just yourselves. Because what you guys have done is not just build success, you've built an institution. And today, one of the things I always say is an institution is any organization that anybody can leave and the growth of that institution will not slow down. And there are too few institutions, that we can point to. Today, Sahara is truly an institution. It's already, for me, already getting into the second generation of Sahara managers and leaders. And I wanted to just salute you and say, well done to you and the team. We appreciate what you're doing. You've given not just hope, but you've given a clear example for a lot of people to follow. So now let's talk about the challenges as it faces Africa, Nigeria, which really concerns us more. Every time you ask people, and you try, especially when I travel, and people say to me, we don't understand. How is it that such a blessed nation or such a blessed continent can be so underperforming? And for many years, we've heard this thing, is leadership, is leadership, is leadership, is leadership. What do you think is the leadership challenge that Nigeria and indeed maybe Africa faces? And you led global expansion across Africa, so you've dealt with many leaders across Africa, right? So you really have an African perspective to this, So can you speak to me a bit and speak to us a bit about what's wrong with us? What's the challenge that Nigeria or Africa has with leadership?
Okay, so let me probably take it from my experience from the end and bring it back to the beginning. And I think the end point of it, and this has come over time with interrogating what the problem is and having what you call beer parlor gists for a while with people, and that goes nowhere but just gist, and then one day you just say enough, let me go and look at how I can test my hands. And I believe that there's something fundamentally wrong with the type of democracy that we have adopted across board in Africa. And I think those models have an issue. The model in itself, right, is not just easily manipulated. It gives power it gives the ability to perpetuate power to anybody who holds on to it by using institutions, money, and all the things that will keep everybody out, so they can manipulate it easily. And it doesn't matter whether the structure of the democratic system that has been set out is called federalism, is called whatever. It is by name. It's by name. What you see underneath is a very, very, very active game to hold on to the reins of power by virtue of the structure within the democratic organization that works beautifully for them. And so my belief is that, and I've seen this across Africa, across board, it doesn't matter which country. My belief is that the African nations, in crossing into democracy from the military, right, did not interrogate properly what type of democracy that they were going to put in place that reflected the people's needs and the needs of development of their nations. And so in that rush or that euphoria that, military regime is no longer hot or acceptable, let us move. They just borrowed whatever they could borrow. So take American presidential system, take this presidential system, and let us put democracy in place. Now, I believe that when this was being done, maybe the intention was, let us put it in place and let us begin to correct it as we move along. So we'll tweak it, we'll correct it and all of that. But let's start with democracy. Let's just start with democracy. However, unfortunately, once the system was put in place, those who entered into power now saw that this system that has been put in place is sweet for us. In other words, we can use this system to stay in power, and we can use this system to do whatever we can do. So for me, when we talk about leadership and the issue of leadership in governance and all of those things, it actually starts with the structure of how the system is. And until we go into the structure and take a look at how to begin to change the structure down there, then anything and anybody who goes into government, anybody who goes into politics, anybody who goes in has to face a structure that is already faulty. And that is a challenge. It's a major challenge.
So it takes me to the next question, which is this a structure that can be fixed, or is this a structure that must be replaced? Because in fixing the structure, it would say, let's go into it, let's go in there and work our way in. In replacing it is let's build another structure that will contend with this structure. What do you think? Is this a fix it or replace it? What kind of how do you think we deal with this?
It's a tough question, and those are the tensions that you have to.
Do we work from outside or do we work from inside?
Okay, so those are the tensions that you have to work out. Working from outside means that you are actively contending. That means you are contending hard. You are contending in opposition. You are contending with forces that will follow you, cane you, jail you, beat you up, drive you away. So there's that contention. That's one contention. It's a difficult contention, but it's a contention if you go that way. It's a contention that causes you have a lot of blood on the table for that to happen, because you are going to be frontal with change. The second one is a bit more subtle, but
more incremental.
But incremental. It's subtle but incremental, and it requires people who understand that change will come over time. In other words, people will die, some will get weak, some will go away, and all of that, and you have to build it over time. And you have to be deliberate about it, because you know that this is where you are going. Very deliberate. It means that, yeah, you win some, you will lose some, and all of that, but it takes time. I think in the battle that we have today, I suspect that some nations in Africa are going to try to do it the confrontational way. I'm worried about the confrontation. I was reading a book by Frantz Fanon recently here in Oxford, and it was talking about decolonizing the mindset and the whole decolonizing of who we are. So I understand where he's coming from, but he says that every method of decolonization can only be fashioned through violent confrontation. More or less. In other words, for you to decolonize your mind, the process in itself is a violent process. It's almost like
it's a surgery.
It's a surgery. You have to tear so much out, and unless you confront it like that, it cannot change. So that's one philosophy. But I believe that the way that this can be done is that
more sustainable.
In a more sustainable way, because you can never tell what the outcome of the other one would be. It can be hijacked, it can be, you just cannot tell. So yeah. I kind of believe that there are people who want what is right. They need to confront by going inside the process. They need to jump into the process. You see, the beautiful thing about democracy, even though it has all of its faults, right, is that it cannot stop you from entering. It cannot stop you from participating. Once you have decided that you want to participate, like you fella, you went in, you decided to participate. I went in, I decided to participate. They can't stop you from choosing to participate. They can frustrate your participation, no problem. Yeah, they can frustrate your participation, that is fine. But they cannot stop you from participating. Now, the more people that participate, the better chance you have of making the difference. So the question is that, can you convince enough people to come in to participate? Because when you have that number, then you can make the change. And I suspect that that's where it's going to go, but let's see.
Oh, I mean, so this is amazing what you're sharing with me, because you know how you hear people say, listen, look, you know, every nation gets the leaders it deserves. That, you know, because the leader always is a reflection of the people in the end. That it's the people who choose their leaders, and therefore, but we also know that doesn't really happen, because there's some form of imposition that takes place based on this particular structure you're talking about. Now, people have been putting in the comment, and you've heard this many times. You and I have heard it many times. Oh, why is it that it looks like the countries that today we can almost point to and say this is done great, you know? So you look at Dubai and you look at Singapore and you look at you know, and we have quite a number of all of these countries where it seems like a benevolent type leader or a benevolent ruler was in place, that those countries are more stable than all these democracies that we're talking about. I want you to help me understand and put it in perspective for us. Why should the people get involved in the democracy that they have? Because what you have in the democracy that we typically doesn't work is that the brightest and the best don't step in, even to go and vote. They will tell you their vote will not count. They will tell you that the vote has already been counted. They will tell you they don't want to get involved. The brightest and the best don't run for office because they will say to you, I beg you, politics is a dirty game. And, you know, I don't want my name to be stained. And do you understand? So it's like as if we see in the nations where democracy doesn't seem to work, the exclusion of the brightest and best minds. But in the nations where democracy works, we see the inclusion, the active participation of those who know better, those who can do better, serving everybody else. Tell me your thoughts about this.
And that's beautiful. And it goes back to where I first started off in the last question, which I said, let me start from the end. And I talked about the structure. The structure that you have defined, whether it's Singapore, UAE, Dubai, wherever, where you have called it a benevolent dictator within a democracy, what you have seen there essentially, right, is that they have fashioned a structure of democracy that the people understand. It works with the culture of the people, and the people can buy into it because it is fashioned along their mindset, their cultures, their traditions, the way it works and all. So if you went into the UAE today and you ask an Emirati, for example, that, you know what, let us have American-style democracy, parliament, you choose your leader, the sheikh goes away after 4 years and all of that, the man will tell you, I don't want, I am not interested. Carry your story and go away. We don't want it. So what you have is that there is a structure that fits the culture, and that is why it works for them.
And now, that's what's happening with China and the Asian countries.
Exactly. So China has, everybody comes, says, do what you want and all of that. China says, thank you very much. We are going to design the form of governance, and let's use democracy for lack of a better word. We're going to design the form of governance and democracy that works for us, that bears in mind our culture, our tradition, our language, the way we are, and so on and so forth, and will deliver the social contract that we have to the people. Now, all of this is working. When you now come to us, what did we do? We carried a structure that is American. We brought it. It has no bearing on how our culture is. That's not how you elect leaders in your culture, not Yoruba land, not Hausa land, not in Igbo land, not anywhere. We don't understand it. It's not how we have been, but it's fine. I'm not saying that it's wrong, but what I'm saying is that we need to marry it with who we are, so that the man on the street automatically knows that I have a part to play in this, because this is how I am. My DNA is towards leadership, towards accountability, holding people accountable. We frankly do not understand the accountability of democracy the way we see it. We don't, because it's alien to us. And so we must sit down and redefine and tweak some of those things such that it flows with us, so that even when I wake up, if I tell my son or my daughter or my brother that this is what we are doing, they understand it immediately, because in their DNA, that is exactly what it's about. And so, for me, we need to tweak it. If we don't tweak it, we have
So there's something that you and I have talked about several times, and I just wanted you to touch on it a little bit. That, you know, the crisis that we have, whether it's in Nigeria or in across Africa, has happened when two very special things happen. The abdication of responsibility by those who know, to say, it's not my wahala. If my own children can go to school, it doesn't matter whether their school spoiled. It's not my wahala. If I can buy Jeep as long as the hole in the boat is not on my end, I'm okay. I mean, if I can, so there's an abdication of responsibility. And on the other hand, there is this other group of people who may not necessarily be the most qualified, the most competent, but they love the exclusivity. So they want to make sure that, you know what, let's exclude you guys from being involved. Whilst these other guys who say, even we said we don't want to be involved, but let me just settle myself. Unfortunately, somehow or the other, it doesn't matter which side of the boat is leaking. Whether it's your boat, we are going down, and we are all seeing it now. Tonye, the question now is, how do we fix it? Because we need to get into the conversation around fixing things. I mean, people are out there. How do we fix it going forward? How do we get the brightest and best of this nation to begin to say, listen, I cannot sit down and just keep watching. I must do something, even if it is to vote, even if it's to join a political party, whether the party wins or does not win. I must vote for the person I want, whether the person wins or doesn't win. I mean, one of the things that a lot of people said to me after the elections was, fella, you know, I wanted to vote for you, but you will not win. I said, okay, well, how will I ever win? You know? And I'm sure you've heard things like that before. How do we get to the point where people, and I'm talking about smart, intelligent, enlightened people, get to the point where they can say, listen, I am going to get involved. Whether the outcomes come out for me the way I want it or not, I will still get involved. And therefore, we then break this exclusion that these other people have been enjoying for a long time, who many times cannot deliver. I mean, look at local government council level. You know, you see some people who are running for local government or who are the chairman, and you know that your 18-year-old son can do that. I don't know whether but guess what?
Absolutely.
Are you stepping forward? How do we get the people to get involved, Tonye?
I had to laugh because I was remembering. It's just so funny. I remember when I got involved. So I got people praying, saying, "Tonye, are you mad? What's wrong with you? Do you know where you're going? They will shoot you, they will kill you. Don't go. That place is mad. You cannot stand against the man there. He's a madman. He's a killer. He's a killer. Are you okay? What are you doing?" There's some people who will be praying for me. Please, please, please say no. Come back. What is wrong with you?
Oh my God. I cannot tell you all the things that I heard. But the most important one that they always say is that politics, you will die. And they will say to you, if you don't lose your life, you will lose your reputation. That it's one of those two things. Your integrity, if you don't lose your reputation, you lose your integrity. And so in a way, who wants to, you know, it's like as if you have to be block-eared to be able to go. How do we go from, in a way, discouraging people, our brightest and best, to encourage them? What do people need to know? What do they need to hear? What do they need to learn?
You know, we're laughing at our experience here, but it's a very, very, very serious question, and it's something that will not change if we don't move forward. And I remember the conversation you and I had before you before you went forward, and then even when you were going forward, I didn't know that I was going to join you soon after. But
yes,
we're having
because we had a meeting. As I always, there's nothing I want to do that I won't come and tell you. And then the next day I say, bro, you too.
But you see, those decisions that we took were fundamental, and we're spiritual beings. But having said that, the decision is outside of the spirit realm. It's very, very practical. People do what they see. Okay, so we can stand on the pulpit from today till next year and try and convince people that they need to go and go into politics. They need to do this and all of that. If you don't go, you can't convince anybody that they should go.
Absolutely.
If you don't have the battle scars and you don't have the stories and you don't know what you are doing, you can't advise anyone. You know, I used to think that I knew you and I, we had so many conversations. We used to think that we knew politics, you know.
Yes.
We used to think that we understood politics.
There's a difference between teaching somebody how to swim in class and then when you get inside the pool.
You know, so we used to
swimming on the board. They will say, put your hand like this, put your hand.
And then they threw you inside. But, fella, if I'm asked this question 1,000 times, right? Would I do it again and again and again? The absolute answer is yes. And why so? Because what I learned in 6 months, right? 20 years, I would never have learned it. 20 years.
Absolutely.
Please understand that my father was a politician. My father was part and parcel of people who designed politics, did this, went back and forth and all. I sat down listening to politicians, talking to politicians, meeting politicians. Then I entered into a business that I had to deal with politicians every other day, governors, ministers, presidents from different countries and all of that. Fella, I knew Jack. Everything that I thought I knew, it was nothing. Until you step inside that ring and they punch you, you don't know anything. I think the first punch will open your eye that, wow, okay. So we're in a ring. But the truth of the matter is that the lessons were fundamental and they were critical. And what did he tell me? He told me certain things. He told me first and foremost, right, that you can set your parameters. You know, that whole thing about, oh, you say it's so dirty, you will lose your integrity and all of that. Look at you and I are still here. Our integrity is not lost. Yeah. But we went in.
The values, our values did the job that values are supposed to do.
End of story.
They helped us in decision making.
Absolutely.
They stood our ground when offers for compromise came. Good. And all of our values held the ground. All
right. So you understand the first aspect of it, right? That you can set your parameters as to what you would accept and what you would not accept. Now, some people may like it, some may not like it. Some will say that this is not how politics is played, blah, 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 and so on and so forth. It's fine. It's okay. As long as you understand why you are there. So that's number one. Set your own parameters. Just set it. Know that this is what you are there for. Number two, know that it's a long game. Long game. What people are used to in politics is that they will leave their business, they will jump in, when they slap them 1, 2, 3, they're gone. And they don't show up. They don't show up again for the next. No. It's a long game. You are there. So number two is that we are there. Why is number one and number two important? Number one and number two is important because of all the things that people were saying to you. So they were saying that, you know what, I would have voted for you, but I didn't think you were going to win. Or I was going to follow you. But now what they're essentially saying to you and to me is that they don't think you are going to be there for the long term. They think it's a hobby. You know what? You have been bored. You have been speaking plenty, motivational speaking, and you just want to come in and just try yourselves. Let's see whether something can happen.
Some people even think that you are looking for minister.
You are looking for minister. You are looking for
money. Some people say, "Oh, you want to be popular."
So, and it's okay. You see, we must understand this. So some say, maybe there's something, their business is not doing so well and they just need to go and do some small, quick business in government and all of that. And people will have their prejudices as to why you are leaving whatever you are leaving to go to government. Again, it is fine. That is understandable. Now, once you get over that hump, the next aspect is that they're going to watch and say, wait, he's still there. He's still speaking about these things. He's still standing after all the slaps. He's still pushing on. He still believes in it. Then the question is, what is he seeing that we are not seeing? Why is he there? Now, once they move from that first suspicion that you are there for yourself, you are there because you want something, all this story that you and I are talking, a lot of that is just political speak, it's not true. Once they begin to see the action, the next question is that they're going to come and say, what can we do? You see, that's what can we do is where it pushes it. We are in a very major time in our nation. Major. What we're seeing right now, right, with the youth and pushing, the way I look at it is that I say that we're in a labor of the birth of a new nation.
Absolutely.
What the youth, yes, and what the youth are doing and all of this is that they are the contractions of that new nation. They are the contractions. Yes. They are pushing, they are pressing and all of that. Once the contraction starts in labor, you cannot stop it.
Yes, indeed.
Okay, you can't. So the contraction is pressing such that that baby is going to come out. Now the question is that who is the midwife? Who is the midwife of that thing? Who has some experience that will carry it? Now, if you have the wrong midwife, the contraction has started. If you have the wrong midwife, what will happen is that the baby will come out, the midwife will steal the baby. The baby will come out, the midwife will kill the baby.
Yeah. And sometimes even the mother will die in the process.
Thank you. Good. So we must understand that this process of birthing a new Nigeria requires you and I, who have gone ahead to midwife, the contractions that are being pressed on and all of that, they will birth that baby. When they birth the baby, they want to celebrate a baby that came out alive. The mother was still alive. The father is rejoicing and dancing outside. The doctors and the hospital staff are all clapping and happy that this new baby came out. Our responsibility for this new Nigeria is beyond just one person's activity. It's intergenerational. It requires everybody in the room. We all have to work together. That new Nigeria must be bettered. The youth, kudos to them. They are pushing. The contraction is what needs to happen. But we must midwife it. And we must midwife it carefully.
Amazing. You know, I think that one of the things that we see, I mean, and I know that there is so much pushback by the system to try to put a negative spin on what we just saw coming out of the EndSARS movement. You know, and some people were saying, oh, it's anti-government, and I think that it was the awakening of a generation. I think that it was a generation that literally came alive and said, listen, we want more than this. We don't want to be brutalized by police. We don't want to be brutalized by anybody else. And those conversations started to lift up other conversations and say, in fact, we don't even want corruption. And in fact, we don't even want bad governance. But it was essentially the awakening of a generation. And I call this generation the generation of promise. I believe very strongly that it is this generation that will be the generation that will take us to the promised land. I believe it with all my heart. And I always say, listen, the only thing is, as you can remember in the scriptures, when there was a generation of promise, they needed to be trained on how to engage, especially when they get to the promised land, right? And so there's something that you've been sharing the last few minutes. I mean, I know a lot of people are asking, will you guys run again? Will you guys run again? I'm not even here to ask you that question first. The first question is, how do we take what we know and make it available to the next generation of, and when I mean next generation, to be honest with you, it's not about age alone. No, there are people that are older than us that are going to be running for the first time. Absolutely. There are some people that are younger than us that are going to be running for the first time. How do we, and so you and I were talking about the future candidate program, which you know, and you know, so and for those who are going to hear about this, you know, Tonye and I are looking to working on a program together called the Future Candidate Program. There are a few other people that are also going to be coming on board it. Kamela Okara, who ran for governor in Bayelsa State and later became commissioner. And so we are looking for what I call a few good men and women who have gone into this place but not stained themselves, who have gone in, and we want to be able to see how do we bring all our lessons. I know some people are going to say, I beg you, did you win election? What are you talking about? Even what we did not win, there's lesson in it. There's lesson. So the truth about it is that, you know, again, please, everybody note this out there. We've come up with a program called the Future Candidate Program, and there will be an introductory course, which is an introduction to the course itself, on Tuesday, the 8th of December. We will give you the time, but just note it out, save the dates. The main course itself is going to be from Thursday, the 17th of December to Saturday, the 19th of December. And we're looking to bring, I'm telling you, I mean, as many of the good men, including, and I'm looking at seeing, I haven't spoken to him yet, but I'm hoping to get my brother, Peter Obi. I'm hoping to get my brother Donald Duke. I'm hoping to possibly see if I can even get we're just basically seeing how do we bring people who have run for office at executive level, people who have run for office at legislative level, and how do we make the people come and share their thoughts, their stories, and their advice. So the introductory course is absolutely free of charge, and you will have to register. We will put all of that out for you to know so that we can be sure that it is people who are really thinking about it. It is true that by the end of the introductory course, by the time you hear Tonye tell you a few things, you may decide that maybe it's not yet time. That, because we are not, nobody is going to come and we will tell you exactly as we know it to be. If you still decide to continue that you want to go forward, then you can come for the Future Candidate Program in itself from the 17th to the 19th. But otherwise, and we're going to put this out, it's to register for the program is admin@gemstoneng.net. And somebody's going to be putting that out there, and we will pin it up. If you are thinking about running, if you haven't made up your mind yet, but you are thinking seriously about it, you may want to join the conversation on the 8th of December, Tuesday, the 8th of December. And basically all that it's going to be doing is just asking you, are you really sure about this? Do you really want to do this? And if at the end of the day you listen to all, and we will tell you the reasons why you should not do it. We will tell you all the wrong reasons that typically people have that you shouldn't do it. But more importantly, my point is just to say, Tonye, please tell us why it's important that people like us share our experience with the people that are coming behind us. And like I said, it's not just young people, but anybody that has not done this before.
Okay. So I started off by saying, I think I did mention somewhere along our conversation that everything that we thought that we knew about politics, we ended up discovering that we didn't know anything about it until we got there. And so there are two types of people you are going to meet along the way. You are going to meet people who you would ask about politics, and they'll just give you some very general answer that doesn't tell you anything at all. And there are plenty, there are many of them. And the reason why they tell you that general thing is so that they can keep as many of you out of politics as possible. It's extremely important that we understand that politics is about exclusivity. It's about keeping, it's about exclusion, sorry, not exclusivity. It's about exclusion. It's about keeping as many people out as possible. And so we need to understand that aspect of it. Which means, and it's crazy because that's not what democracy is about. It's meant to be the other way. It's a flip side. So what's important? Something has shifted, and something has shifted in the dynamics of Nigeria today. And so what you are seeing is that a lot of people are now hungry for information. And after something shifted on the 20th of October, it shifted fundamentally. It doesn't matter what the story is. I'm not here to justify one side or another to say this. No. It doesn't matter what anybody says the story is. What matters is that there has been a fundamental shift.
Yeah.
And that shift means that things are going to happen. Now, the shift means that today people are now hungry for knowledge, information. They want to know what is going on. So people are going to sit down and they're going to interrogate the Constitution from the beginning to the end. They will dissect it completely. Now, they will find out after they finish dissecting it that there is plenty of work to be done. But no problem. At least it's been dissected and you now know what you are looking for. People are going to dissect political parties. They're going to sit down and dissect APC, dissect PDP. They're going to dissect whether to ANN, they will dissect which party they want to go to or whichever party they don't want to go to. It doesn't matter. It's not a question of, oh, APC is a good party, it's a useless party, PDP is a good party. No.
It's first of all, get interested and get involved, Seth.
We are beyond that now. Now what you are seeing is that people want to know. They are okay, no problem. Let us understand what is going on. You see, that knowledge is fundamental. Now, when you begin to get that knowledge, the next question is that, okay, now that I'm taking the knowledge from the public space, so I'm downloading constitutions, downloading manifestos, looking this, looking that. The next aspect is that you're now going to want to hear from people who have been there. Now that you are equipped with some knowledge, theoretical knowledge, somebody comes and bullshits you, you will know immediately that this person is not telling the truth. Which means that you begin to look for people who will tell you the truth about what you are facing.
That's hoping that you want the truth.
I think most people will get to that point where they are beginning to figure out that, okay, you know what, we want the truth. But there's a bigger truth that has not yet been addressed. And that bigger truth is this: there are far more people, by far more people that are outside who are not in this interrogation, this whole space of social media and all of that, far more than you are. And the next question that you're going to ask yourself in all of this, and that's where this whole thing about politics is important, is that how do you reach those people? How do you bring them into the conversation? How do you get them to start? How do you get them to start interacting? Because they are your audience. At the end of the day, they are your major audience. So there's a lot of work to be done. But the first step is what is going on now. Knowledge-based.
Amazing.
Knowledge-based. First get knowledge. After you get knowledge, you get strategy. After you get strategy, you get where you're going, and then you take it and you move on.
Amazing. So I need you to be more pointed in, because I'm coming to a point where I'm asking you for advice now on specifics. So a generation that almost didn't need to get involved in their minds, because they are the generation of the well-to-dos, whether they were the ones who have the opportunity to travel abroad. Many of them even have multiple, two different passports. They at least had an option. For the first time, we saw that generation arise in the peaceful protests that just took place, right, in the NSAS, and they got involved. But a lot of them are beginning to lose faith again. They came out, they were proud of themselves, and the world said to you, we are proud of you, well done. There were parents who started off by saying, no, don't go to any protest ground though, and then after some time they started thinking, yeah, this person is there, that one is there, and now we started seeing parents saying to their children, what are you doing at home? Are you not going to go? So for the first time, it seemed like we saw a generation that did something that the older generation may have wanted to do, but really never was able to get that momentum going. My question is, what do you want to tell that generation in a way as to sustain the momentum they built without necessarily taking it in the, it's not just about protests, right? Where do they go from the streets? I know you and I were having a conversation about this. Let's go and get BBC. What do you tell that generation?
Okay. So the first aspect that I'll tell the generation is that everything that they are doing is not new. Okay. And so because it's not new, it means that people have done it before, and you can learn from the mistakes and errors of where they did, where they got it wrong. And once you learn from the errors, then you know what to do to push forward. And one of the biggest errors, one of the biggest mistakes was to stop pushing, was to get up and just say, you know what, leave these people, let's go and do our own thing. Big mistake. The circle is a 30, 40-year circle, which means that if you leave it now, then your own children will have to do exactly what you've done in the future. So our own children were doing what we started 30 years ago, and we did not finish. Now, you are there again in a moment of history, right? asking for you. Look, it's important that your narrative is right. What you are asking for at the end of the day is a better nation for all. You are looking for a Nigeria that you are proud of. You are looking for a Nigeria that delivers all its potential to you, such that it does great for everybody else. There's nothing wrong with that vision. There's nothing wrong with a vision for a greater Nigeria. In fact, go back to Fela's discussions 15 years ago. Go back to my own 15 years ago. It's about a greater Nigeria. We've
been talking about this thing for years.
Yes, we've always talked about the vision for a greater Nigeria, understanding that not just the. In fact, I started saying Fela at one point that the word potential was something I began to hate. I just began to dislike.
Yes.
Oh, we have the potential. We have the potential.
Who potential help? Who potential help?
I began to dislike it completely because you must go beyond potential to do it.
Actualization.
To actualization. And so we're now in a season of actualization. But that actualization is for the good of everybody. So once you can see, once you can visualize, and goes back to that whole thing about picture and puzzles, once you can visualize in your mind what this Nigeria is about, then you are unstoppable. But you must visualize it. You must see it. You must see it.
Okay. So the other thing that we realize is looking back, and we've seen this before. It's not the first time. Okay. It played itself out. Is that a few guys came out, wanted to do it right, peaceful protesters, don't spoil anything. In fact, they would sweep after they were done, saying, just basically, just the poster child of what peaceful protest is supposed to be like. And then all of a sudden, we started to see the infiltration of people who, in a way, had a completely different value system, right? So, and then, of course, when we then had that incursion on the 20th of October, that Black Tuesday, that just sparked something. And we saw literally the kind of carnage that people who were opportunists waiting in the sidelines, to be able to just go and loot and do different kinds of things. And so here it is, we saw the protesters, the peaceful protesters had to literally retreat, and these guys took over the streets, right? And so much destruction was everybody has a story to tell. Somebody, and if it's not your direct person, somebody who lost something in the course of this thing. So now that tells us this interesting scenarios where we're here, where you see these two in the same generation, you see these two different kinds of value systems. You see the people who are fighting for a better nation, and then you see the other guys that are just fighting. And it's like, oh, more, applause, whatever we can take now, let's take it. How do we get those two to engage together in a way that helps to create sustainable movement for that generation? Because look at the guys that are looting, young guys. Look at the guys that want better, young guys, but two different values. What do you advise is the way to get that level of integration and engagement together?
I wish I could show you my board, my whiteboard here, because I'm drawing linkages between the two youths on my board. I'm just figuring out that linkage is important. So I just have scribbles here. But somebody said something, I think Samson Itodo said something which is critical. It says youth is not an ideology, it's an identity. Youth is not an ideology, it is an identity. Which means that if you are campaigning or you are pushing or doing anything on the basis of youth alone, it's not going to take you far. It's going to fizzle out. Why? Because there are different types of youth that are within that bracket of youth. And one thing that 2010 and the aftermath thereafter showed is that you have different types of youth. So understand that. That's very important. But now the question is this. It doesn't matter, again, the spark of whether it's by infiltration, whether somebody paid for them to start and all of those things. Again, let's leave how it started out and let's look at what happened. So just look at the physiology of what happened thereafter. Once something starts, right, then everybody else, even the ones who were not interested in being infiltrated or paid, they'll come out and they'll join. But what did you see there? You remember in the first aspect, you described parents who first started off by saying, don't go anywhere, saying that, go. Why? Because there was a shift. They saw an example of something that they could do and they could align with those values. In the second instance, what you are seeing is that you are also seeing people who will align with certain values when something starts going out. But what is driving those values? The things that are driving the values that you saw come out are the very things that you are fighting for. So hunger, poverty, this, that. Those are critical values that you must understand and you must address. You know, okay, I don't want to digress, so let me finish this thought. So you must address those things. And now what's happening is that there is an intersection, and this is where we make a difference. There's an intersection between the two categories of youth, but we always think that they are separate. We always think, right, that there's no interaction. So it's us versus them. It's them there, us here. And that is the fundamental mistake. Every single one of us, fella, has people in our families that is in the grassroots category. Yes, everyone. So you have first cousins that are grassroots that so far you are calling them versus us. No, you have. So there are intersections where you can make that connection. There are intersections in family. There are intersections in community. There are intersections inside the church. There are intersections inside the mosque. There are places where you meet with each other. I even have on my board that there is intersection. Don't laugh here. There is intersection in Premier League football.
Because all of them love the same clubs.
Exactly. So there are intersections, which means that as long as those intersections exist, it means that there is avenue for dialogue. It means that there is avenue for you to sit down across a table and figure out how to work together. But us versus them, that is not going to work. Yeah. So we must enter that. Now, the funny thing is that those same intersections are the same intersections that they used to divide us. The same intersections, the same place. So we must understand it so that you know that need to speak to both is critical. It is not please, let's understand this. It is not a savior complex. You see, fella, when you come with a savior mentality, a messiah mentality, what you are failing to understand is that the people who came out after 2010, after that, they see you and me, they see the protesters in exactly the same way they see government. They don't see you differently. Understand this. They don't see you differently because the way they see you, even though you are out there protesting and saying this, what they see at the end of the day is that you are a beneficiary of whatever it is that, because you have your Jeep, you have your car, you have your ticket to London, you have everything that you have. So as far as they are concerned, you are not any different from the government. Now, your mindset says that you are different. You know that you are pushing for something that is different, but that's not what they see. Why? Because they don't see you. You are not in the grassroots with them. You don't treat them any better. You are not dealing. You are not feeding them. You are not doing anything at the community that differentiates you from the same government that you are trying to push. So, in this move for you, please begin to connect at the level
that you are.
You must connect.
Amazing. Well, I mean, you and I were talking a little while, and I have just 2 more questions for you, and then I'll let you go. I'm sure you have so much more to do. But we were talking about what do we think is the way forward, and I shared with you my strategy, my understanding of what's going to have to happen. I believe very strongly that we need a movement that will bring forth. Only a movement can bring forth this new nation. And I told you there were 5 things that I thought were important. Number 1 was that we need a mass mobilization of people to go and get their PVCs. right? And the movement must make that happen. Let us go and sleep in INEC if we have to sleep there. But until we get our PVCs, we are not leaving. There are 108 million Nigerians above the age of 18 as at the last in 2019, and 3 million Nigerians turn 18 every year. So by 2023, there should be 120 million Nigerians above the age of 18. And when you look at it and say, in the number of votes that were connected for the presidential last presidential elections, which were mobilized legitimately, monetized and manipulated, which, as you know, is many times the half of the vote, together of the establishment was only able to produce 26.4 million votes, not voters. 26.4 million votes, 15.1 for APC, 11.3 for PDP. That includes monetized and manipulated votes, which means that to a large extent, we are talking about maybe at best 15 to 18 million people that came out of 108 million people that could come out. What we need is to see a mobilization of people, mass mobilization to go. And I'm very happy that INEC has said they will start their registration now. The second thing that I said that is important is that we need to have a consensus candidate. And a consensus candidate at, I think, at different levels, but more importantly, to be able to say that consensus candidate is not going to come from the presidential candidates or aspirants that are going to know. It's the people. The same way we vote for a winner in Big Brother Niger, everybody leverage technology, leverage whatever it is to ensure that we produce one person that represents all of us. Okay. The third thing that I think that we need is a consensus agenda, a people's agenda. That means that we need to be able to get people to make suggestions that will form the agenda called a Reform Nigeria. And that agenda will become what anybody that gets into government goes and executes. The same way when you hire people, you give them job description, you give them key performance indicators. This is what it is, not just about whether, what do you want to do for us? No, it is what will you go and do on our behalf. And I believe that that's going to be very important. The fourth thing is that I believe that we would have to have the people on the grassroots mobilization, which is what you just talked to us about, where everybody is looking within their circle of influence and saying, you are the one responsible for telling the people how to act. Go and get your voter's card. This is how you need to vote, and all of that. And then the last one is what I call social impact programs, where we need to actually have programs where those who have can share with those who don't, where we can begin to mobilize books, book drives, where we can mobilize cloth drives, you know, so people who have clothes that they're not wearing in their wardrobe, people who have clothes that their children are not wearing, how do we make that available to the children who don't have clothes, so that we can begin to take care of our neighbor? How do we love our neighbors in a way that our neighbors themselves can together look at how we can protect each other, and we can prove to each other that, hey, you know, this is us. We are going to fix this together. You know, how do we begin to do food camps, right? Where every day, Tonye, every day, pepper is spoiling on the market, tomato is spoiling in the market, onions is spoiling. How do we mobilize the pepper that is not sold and begin to have pots cooking everywhere and people going and celebrating rather than have hungry people on the road? How do we feed people? And it's not about stomach infrastructure or any of those things. How do we do this as a movement of people? This is what I believe. It's about mass mobilization. It's about consensus candidacy. It's about having a coalition kind of election before the general election, that people will come to say, this person will go for us. And more importantly, it's about coming up with a consensus agenda that becomes the people's agenda. The people who are part of framing that agenda. It's about being able to get the people to begin to mobilize at the grassroots. Not just that somebody will say, oh, do they know you in my hometown? That's not the issue. They know you. Why aren't you talking to your people in your hometown? And then, of course, the social impact project. I think that these are the 5 things, and you and I were talking about this, but I think towards the end, and I just want you to wrap up. I know you've done so much for us in terms of sharing. I want you to share with us what is the vision of the Nigeria that you see, and how do you think we'll get there? And that really is my second to final question, and then you're just going to tell someone as a final question, your advice to anybody who's listening right now, but tell me a little bit about the vision of Nigeria that you see and how we get there. What are the three things we need to do to get there? Bam. And then you tell us what is the thing that...
No problem. So recently, I saw a world poverty chart and world migration chart that spans, say, 50 years, from 50 years ago till date, right? Asia, led by China and India, right, had the highest poverty rates. Asia, China, and India. 50 years ago, the poverty rate there was beyond belief. Up until 30 years ago, the same. Now, 20 years ago, it began to shift. So China and India at the top started coming down. Africa, on the other hand, at that same time was at the bottom, right? With poverty that was not comparable. We were still poor, but poverty in volume that was not comparable to Asia or Asia. Fella, today
it was like reverse.
It's inverse. What has happened over the last 50 years? By driving policy, government, as we discussed, the right type of leadership and all of that, in Asia, China and India specifically, and then all of other Asia, is that the poverty curve, extreme poverty curve at the top has crashed.
Yep.
What has happened in Africa on the other side, if it remained the same, maybe you will not feel so bad. But Africa is moving in this direction. So
and very steep.
Good. Now the poverty rate is moving in this direction. Now, what is worse is that what is driving the poverty rate going up in terms of countries? Nigeria is at the top. So Nigeria is part of the countries that is pushing poverty rate high in Africa. Now everybody else is coming down. Technology is driving it down. Manufacturing is driving it down. Global trade drove it down. There are many things that are driving it down based on leadership and policies. That's one. Two, as the poverty rate was moving, migration out of countries that can make a difference was shifting. China had reverse migration. India had reverse migration. In other words, people started going back.
People were coming back home, Insodos.
Thank you. They were coming back to improve. In Nigeria, what was happening is that people are
Exodus.
All right. So when you ask me about the vision, right, the vision is that those two things must change. Absolutely. One, we must stop the rise of poverty. Critical. It must stop. You see, this curve, we have to do this. We must stop it. And we must stop it fast. And then secondly, we must stop migration. You see, once you can stop this, then immediately migration will stop. What did you see? You are seeing people that are in the diaspora interested in Nigeria. Why are they interested in Nigeria? We've all lived abroad. Why? Why are they interested? You cannot take home away. You can't. They want to. Reverse migration is something that happens naturally once you can stop this curve, drive it down, and you begin to create opportunities.
Opportunities.
You don't need to beg anybody. They will come back to do what they need to do. Why? Because everybody wants to be proud of their country. So the vision is this: stop poverty, stop migration, make people proud of the nation that they call Nigeria. Let them be proud to be Nigerian.
Wow.
If we can do that, great.
Wow. Look, I mean, I'm just going to say thank you so much, Tonye. You have shared so much, and you know, I'm sure somebody wants to say thank you. Somebody says, I agree, home is home. You know, somebody really, if you have had an amazing time today, give me a word that describes this leadership conversation that we've had. You know, I can see, Kemio, you're putting like bang on target, wonderful, sound minds talking, you know, and I love the fact that these are not just sound minds that are talking, these are guys that are doing. So, and it's a privilege to be in that class of not just talkers but doers. You know, and I really would like to say, listen, I wish that everybody will not just talk but do. Now talk now do, like they say. You know, we all have a role to play in building the nation we want. I want you to remember this, guys. You know, this thing called the human race is not about black race, white race. It's a human race, and it's a relay race. And our generation must be able to hand over a better nation to the next generation than the one we inherited from our parents. That is, and only then can we be called a great generation. Otherwise, if the nation we give to our children is worse off than the one that we inherited as children, then we are a wasted generation. God forbid it that we'll be a wasted generation. We have too much. We are too blessed in every way to make this happen. But we need people who will arise, who will take responsibility, and who will get involved in building a new nation. That has to happen. Enough of talking about what other people should go and do. Enough of ask yourself, what will I do? The word responsibility has
one frozen on me.
Sorry, yeah. Okay. The word responsibility has three words: response, I, ability. Those three words must come together, and it's about what can you do. You go and get involved in any which way you can get involved. Stop saying them. Stop saying they. Stop saying you. Start asking, what can I do? How can I act? And I believe that in taking responsibility, each and every one of us must not only just say, I have a role to play, but I will play my role. Whatever is comfortable for you. Even if it is voting good people, vote good people. If it is running for office, go and run for office. And we are ready to train some people. If you think you know, it's fine, run. If you think you want to learn from us, come on the 8th of December. 8th of December, and to be able to register for that, send an email, simple email to admin@gemstoneng.net. And that would help us to send you a form. And then you will be able to just tell us so that we know that you're not just fooling around, right? So we know, and this is not a partisan anything, it's nation building. This is people coming from everywhere, but with the same heart to build a nation. And so it's time for you to get involved. It's time for you, if you need to go and register, look at the political parties, and you do take the time to go and check which one has any philosophy, any ideology, any values that reflect yours. But get involved. Get involved. If you're going to be able to write policy, get involved. That's the most important thing that I've heard from Tonye today. Tonye started the conversation by defining leadership as someone who accepts responsibility to serve. You can serve your generation, even if it's not in office. You can still serve your generation. Tonye, I really want to say thank you so much. And you know, before I tell people bye-bye, I want you to tell me the most important thing you heard from Tonye Cole today. The most important thing you heard from Tonye, the one thing you will not forget, that if anybody says, what did he say? You can say, listen, this was one thing I heard Tonye Cole say today. Anybody, you want to put it out there? Get involved. Okay, fantastic. Please, can we have, yes. No, so I'm gonna save this, and it's going to be on my page. And then we'll put the link in my bio. We'll make it easy to access from there, and I'm sure that we'll try and get you more information over the next couple of days. So I've seen here your values make you. Oh, sorry, that went too quickly. Leadership is about accepting responsibility to serve. Okay, cohesive partnership was one of the things you heard. Bring poverty down to initiate reverse development reverse migration. Leadership starts with you, Tonye. You said take responsibility, eliminate poverty. Partnering with others is possible. They said there are too many nuggets that you dropped, Bobo. But I really want to say thank you so much, guys. We're going to have Reverend Sam Adeyemi on the what's that? On the 5th of December. You're going to love that. On the 5th of December at 4 p.m. Saturday, the 5th of December, Sam Adeyemi is going to be here. We're going to talk leadership. We're going to talk nation building. We're going to talk everything. I hope you're going to be connecting with me. Save the dates, put it up on your calendar. Thank you so much for being connected here. And, you know, guys, you know, go have a great week.
So
have a great weekend is what I should say. Let
me leave with one statement. I saw one comment, and I saw it a long time ago, but I don't want it to miss. Somebody said, for the grassroots mobilization, each one reach one.
Yes,
I hold on to that quote. Each one reach one. That we can each reach one. So very, very good. And
I love that.
Just thank you very much.
And in reaching one, it's not just by words. What do you have that you can use to reach others? You know, absolutely. How do we get to the point where, you know, like we said, what do you have in your storehouse that you are not using that is useful to somebody else?
Absolutely.
What you have cast away, somebody else is calling treasure. So I want you to find a way. Don't just say, oh, I love you, my brother. I love you, my brother. Show love. Let everybody show their hand, right? So absolutely. Thank you so much. Each one, reach one.
Reach one.
Okay. Thank you, bro. Enjoy Oxford. Okay.
They're kicking me out of the building, so I have to leave now. So.
Thank you so much. Thank you. God bless you guys, and may God bless this great nation of ours called Nigeria. Right?
Amen.
Dance your way out. Dance your way out. Dance your way out. Dance your way out.
Dance. Awesome. God bless you. Thanks, guys.
Talk to you later.